Ashtapraisha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Tamasloki Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurulmalitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Gurun Sri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Sapadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyaevacha Patitanam Pavanivyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 28. Krishna excuses Nanda Maharaj. Text 16. Tetu Brahma Radham Nita Magna Krishna Nachodita Tadrishur Brahmano Lokam Jotra Kruro Jagat Pura Tetu Brahma Radham Nita Magna Krishnena Chodita Tadrishur Brahmano Lokam Tatra Kruro Jagat Pura Tetu Brahmardam Nidha Magna Krishnena Chodrita Tadrishur Brahmano Lokam Tatra Kruro Jagat Pura. Vapna Krishnena Chodrita Tadrishur Brahmano Lokam Tatra Kruro Jagat Pura Tetu Brahma Radham Nita Magnaha Krishnena Chodrita Tadrishur Brahmano Lokam Tatra Kruro Jagat Pura. Matajis. Tetu Brahma Radham Nita Magnaha Krishnena Chodrita Tadrishur Brahmano Lokam Tatra Kruro Jagat Pura. Te De Tu and Brahma Radham to the lake known as Brahma Radha. Nitaha brought, Magnaha submerged, Krishnena by Krishna, Cha and Udadrita lifted out. Dadrishu they saw Brahmana of the absolute truth. Lokam the transcendental planet. Jatra where Akrura Adyagat saw Pura previously. Translation and purport. The cowherd men were brought by Lord Krishna to the Brahma Radha, made to submerged in the water, and then lifted up. From the same vantage point that Akrura saw the spiritual world, the cowherd men saw the planet of the absolute truth. Purport. The unlimited extension of spiritual light, called the Brahma Jyoti in text 15, is compared to a lake called Brahma Radha. Lord Krishna submerged the cowherd men in that lake in the sense that he submerged them in the awareness of the impersonal Brahman. But then, as indicated by the word Udadritaha, he lifted them up to a higher understanding, that of the personality of Godhead in his own planet. As clearly stated here, Dadrishur Brahmano Lokam. They saw, just as Akrura did, the transcendental abode of the absolute truth. The evolution of consciousness may be briefly summarized as follows. In ordinary consciousness, we perceived and attracted to the variety of material things. Rising to the first stage of spiritual consciousness, we transcend material variety and focus instead on the undifferentiated one, which lies behind and gives existence to the many. Finally, rising to Krishna consciousness, we find that the absolute spiritual one contains its own eternal variety. In fact, since this world is a mere shadow of eternal existence, we will expect to find spiritual variety within the one. And indeed, we do find in it the sacred text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Astute readers may note that the pastime involving a crew that takes place later in the Bhagavatam, after the present affair with the cowherd men. The reason Sukadeva Goswami says Akrura saw Vaikuntha Pura previously is that all these incidents took place many years before the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. The cowherd men were brought by Lord Krishna to the Brahmarada, made to submerge in the water, and then lifted up. From the same vantage point that Akrura saw the spiritual world, the cowherd men saw the planet of the absolute truth. This pastime took place after Lord Krishna rescued his father, Nanda Maharaj, who was arrested by inexperienced servant of Varuna Dev, thinking that he had taken birth in Jamuna at the wrong time. In the real sense, it was an arrangement by providence for Varuna to have the audience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was the intention. And it was realized by Varuna Dev himself. Something happened that baffled Nanda Maharaj. And he saw his boy being worshipped and honored by Varuna Dev. In the comparison between Varuna Dev and Krishna, worshipping, respecting Lord Krishna the way Varuna Dev did was something for someone who does not know who Krishna is to be surprised and bewildered. But that was different from Nanda Maharaj being surprised that his son was being served and worshipped as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by mighty Varuna Dev. He was controlled by Krishna Prem. Therefore, he does not understand, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was not ignorance. That is his prema. And he saw Varuna, a demigod, with such massive opulence. Varuna Dev get down from his throne to respect Krishna and sat him there. Varuna did not do that to Nanda Maharaj when he came. He respected him, but he didn't sit him on his throne. Neither did he wash his lotus feet and sprinkle it on his body and consider his life a success. Varuna Dev told Lord Krishna, of the many births I have taken, this is the perfection of my birth, that I am able to see you directly. So while he was doing all this things, Nanda Maharaj was surprised. Why is he doing this to my son? Why is so much respect? Well, maybe Gagamuni said he like Narayan. Maybe. So when they has finished with Varuna episode, and Lord Krishna took his father back to Braj. So Nanda Maharaj narrated what happened to the Brajabasis. So they was wondering if he is the supreme presence of Godhead, if he's going to deliver them. Therefore, Lord Krishna, the super soul in the heart of all living entities, or the supreme personality of Godhead who satisfies everyone's desire, especially for his devotees, desire to show the residents of Vrindavan what they are thinking of. So in this verse, it is mentioned the cowherd men were brought by Lord Krishna to the Brahmarada, and he submerged them into the water, and then he lifted them up. The purport it is mentioned here that Lord Krishna submerged the cowherd men in that lake in the sense that he submerged them in the awareness of the impersonal Brahman. The Krishna showed them Brahmajyoti, which is a foreign experience, a foreign existence for Brajabasis. It is foreign because this is not their eternal existence. Something which is desired by the impersonalist. The Brajabasis are not impersonalist. They are personalist. So showing them Brahmajyoti was something which is different. But because they wanted to know the position of Krishna in their village, the Krishna showed them Brahmajyoti. He put them in that situation. Our Acharya has mentioned that when they were placed in this situation, they felt pain. They felt pain. It was painful. Just as if someone is put inside a fire. For those who does not have a fiery body, the living entities have a fiery body, they would peacefully exist in fire. But the living entities like us who have our body is earth dominant. It will be very, very painful to exist in fire. That was the situation. Just for us to have a glimpse of what the Brajabasi were feeling. That they were placed in Brahman. They felt pain in their heart. So Lord Krishna did not keep them there for a long time because he could see they are not happy, they are not satisfied. Even when Krishna put them in Vaikuntha, they were not satisfied. Not to talk about Brahmajyoti, which is, as Rupa Swami, so limited, so insignificant, just as the water contained the hope of a calf, not even a cow. For children, toy is something very wonderful. And they could spend the whole day busy with the toy. But for an experienced person, a mature person, the toy is nothing. It's nothing. Similarly, for devotees, Brahmajyoti is nothing. It's not desired by devotees. So when Brajabasis were put here, they were not happy. They were very, very disturbed. They wonder, what is this? What are we? So Krishna didn't keep them there for long. Because they wanted to have the experience. Krishna showed them, but they didn't keep them there for long. From the same vantage point that Akrura saw the spiritual world, the cowherd men saw the planet to the absolute truth. Akrura Ghat is not fiction, it is still there in Vrindavan. And our Acharya said it is the boundary between Vrindavan and Mathura. When Krishna and Balaram were taken by Akrura, when they got to Akrura Ghat, the Jamuna, Krishna and Balaram were sitting on the chariot. It's Akrura who entered into the water to take a dip. But when he entered inside the water, he saw something which is mysterious. Very mysterious. What did he see? He saw Ananta, the and Lord Vishnu together inside the water. And he looked back to the chariot. Krishna and Balaram were sitting there. He looked inside the water. He saw Ananta there. And Vishnu. He was wondering if he were dreaming or he was actually seeing something that he's seeing. Yes, Acharyas, they mentioned because Krishna and Balaram never leaves Vrindavan. They stay in Vrindavan eternally. Their expansions can stay in Dwarka, they can stay in Mathura, they can stay in other places. Everywhere in the universe, the Krishna has his abode. Not only in Vaikuntha planet, the Krishna has abode. In the heavenly planet, the Krishna is there. In Brahmaloka, Krishna is there. In Sotadip, Krishna is there. All are expansions of Krishna. So here, Krishna and Balaram were sitting. They came with Akrura. They came with him from Vrindavan to the border. They did not cross. They stopped there and went back to Vrindavan. But Krishna Vasudeva, that came from Mathura to Vrindavan, manifested simultaneously. So Akrura was seeing both of them. Krishna Vasudeva, they came from Mathura to Vrindavan, and he saw Krishna Balaram that were there in Vrindavan. He was seeing two of them at the same time. So Krishna showed him Vaikuntha. David said here, the same thing that Akrura saw, Krishna showed to the cowherd men. The spiritual world was shown to Akrura, it was shown to the Brajabasis. So it is not fiction, it's something that does exist eternally. Akrura, he saw that, and understanding the mysteries of Krishna consciousness, he quickly took a bath and came out of the chariot. Lord Krishna asked him, did you see something wonderful? Because your face is showing some sign of surprise. Did you see something wonderful? But what did you see? Akrura said, what is mysterious beyond you, seeing you, what is outside you? Everything is in you. So seeing you, everything is complete. So whatever I have seen, that is all right. Mhm. So Krishna Balaram smiled, understanding Akura's level of Krishna consider he's able to digest everything. As clearly stated here, that Drishuru Brahmano Lokan, they saw just as Sakura did, the transcendental abode of the absolute truth. One reason for every intelligent person to understand Lord Krishna, to accept Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's so many ways to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's so many ways. One of the ways to accept Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is his consistency in everything that he does. He's consistent. So it's not something which is imaginary or that the son wants. And Krishna is constantly doing this. What he did to Akura long time back, he's showing the same thing to the Brajabasis. The evolution of consciousness may be briefly summarized as follows. In ordinary consciousness, we perceive and attracted to the variety of material things. Rising to the first stage of spiritual consciousness, we transcend material variety and focus instead on the undifferentiated one, which lies behind and gives existence to the many. Finally, rising to Krishna consciousness, we find that the absolute spiritual one contains its own eternal variety. In fact, since this world is a mere shadow of eternal existence, we will expect to find spiritual variety within one. And indeed, we do not find it in the sacred texts. We find it in the sacred texts of Bhagavatam. Yes. The spiritual world is full of varieties, not only one thing, which make the spiritual world different from material existence. In the material world, we are limited to only 24 items. In our material existence, that's the what we're dealing with. We are simply dealing with 24 things, nothing beyond that. Therefore, it is frustrating. One can imagine a life which will function within only 24 things. You are in a room that has only 24 items for you for life, and you're going to deal with that for eternity. It will be frustrating. After going through it, what next? Because the soul is eternal and fully conscious, they are unlimited activities for the soul, which is not found in the material world. In the material world, we are limited to only 24 things. Therefore, there is no satisfaction, because it becomes, as Prabhupada said, something which is chewed and we're chewing it again. We're going around the 24 items the whole life. The 24 items will go around about it. That's the material existence. In the spiritual world, there are varieties. Not only 24 things, unlimited things. Therefore, there is no end to satisfaction to enjoyment. There's no end. There are varieties of trees, varieties of airplanes, varieties of whatever we can name, we can remember. There are varieties, unlimited varieties. It's not only one item. Yes, Krishna is one supreme personality of Godhead, but he also multiplied himself onto unlimited forms, because Krishna has unlimited devotees. Each and every devotee desire, Krishna expands to satisfy that devotee. Therefore, the devotees are satisfied and happy. And every devotee feels satisfied with whatever forms of Krishna that he is, that he has eternal relationship with. No one feels inferior to any other forms of Krishna. Everybody feels satisfied, because that is our desire, and Krishna is there to fulfill that. So varieties. Varieties you see in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam mentioned the varieties. In the second canto, you see when Krishna showed, after Brahma has perfected his meditation and obtained the mercy from Krishna to create, Krishna showed him the spiritual world to see the varieties of a spiritual world. He showed varieties of entities, airplanes and houses and paraphernalias, all unlimited. So that unlimited spiritual world was shown to Lord Brahma, it was shown to Akrura, it was shown to the Brijabasis. But non-devotees does not have access to. It's unlimited because it is not their desire. And Krishna fulfilled everyone's desire. Since it is not their desire, Krishna will not show them this unlimited spiritual varieties, which is available at all times. Sanatana Goswami mentioned in Vaikuntha, all the Vaikuntha verses has unlimited opulences of Krishna. Unlimited opulences of Krishna in full, and all the opulences are desirables. Unlike in the material world, materialization is not desirable. Whatever facility we have is not desirable because they are temporal. They are temporal and will never give satisfaction to the soul, because the soul is not temporal, the soul is eternal. All desirable opulences of Krishna. They are natural opulence for Vaikuntha verses. No limitation, as it is here in the material world. So as we continue to make advancement and progress in our Krishna consciousness, as we can also experience, as we continue to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, there's so many things are revealed, are shown. As we continue to make advancement, we'll see many things, not just Brahman, which is just the beginning of spiritual life. When we go to the stage of Paramama realization and go beyond that to the Bhagwan realization, which is the ultimate realization, and which contains everything that the soul is looking for. Everything that the soul is looking for exists in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is happening to Akrura, or what has happened to Akrura, what has happened to other devotees, what is happening to the Brajabasis will also become our experience in due course of time. according to Srila Prabhupada. As we continue to move on in a journey of our Krishna consciousness. The reason Sukadeva Goswami says Akruta so by Kuntapura previously is that all this incident took place many years before the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Sukadeva Goswami was telling Parikshit Maharaj about something which has already happened. So it's not something new, something that's already happened that is narrating to Parikshit Maharaj. And Parikshit Maharaj, being a bona fide disciple, had everything attentively and obtained his desires result, which is the result for all devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness. They attained the pure love of Godhead and return back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. There's comments, questions, comments? You have any comments on the question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture Maharaj. Maharaj, like in our Krishna consciousness journey, what happens sometimes like it happens that we are facing some high fever, or maybe we are facing some vomitings or some physical problems. So Maharaj, we have this 16 rounds and we have all those things that is compulsory that we have to do in any condition. But there are some other things also Prabhupada mentions like Mangal Arati and attending Bhagavatam class. So my Maharaj question is that in such situations where we have high fever or vomiting or this physical difficulties, so can we do compromise on these things, Mangal Arati and classes and all those things, or should we come because my question is that it's very difficult because mind is always saying that you are not able to come. So Maharaj, at that point of time, what should be our consciousness and how should we deal with that situation?
Thank you. Question. If we want to learn something, so you are a mechanical engineer. You are a mechanical engineer. Are you going to get the experience of the theory you have learned in the classroom? How are you going to have the experience of what you have learned in the classroom as a mechanical engineer? How will you gain the experience of the theory you have learned? It's when you have a vehicle that is not in good condition. Is it not? Now you have to apply the theory to realize the practical. Is it not? So every day in Krishna consciousness, we will hear from the beginning of our Krishna consciousness till when we are changing this body. We will hear every day that we are not this body. How are we going to practice that? That we are not this body. In practice. Yes, theoretically we have had, and we will speak about it ourselves to many people. We'll hear it from others, we'll read it from the scripture. But when will we show in practice that we are not this body? When you are sick. Is it not? When you are sick, you have a high fever. So how will I show that I'm not this body? Come from Mangalarati. If I stay in my room and sleep there, No, Krishna, I'm very sick today, so I'll not be able to come. So, is that the body or I'm not the body? Which one? The body. So, are we the bodies? Therefore, Mangalarati. Any sickness which is not keeping a devotee in the hospital, any sickness which is keeping in the temple, you are qualified to attend Mangalarati. If you don't do this, we are not the body inside the book, but not in practice. We are not the body. So Prabhupada mentioned to say Aham Brahmasmi, that is Mayavadi. If we are not a body, we are spirit soul, then we should act as spirit soul. So malaria fever is for the soul or is for the body? We are not saying you should not take medicine. You should take medicine because we are the body. But how are we going to transcend this bodily platform? Take the medicine and come from Mangalarati. That is a practical way to transcend. Otherwise, you will remain speaking about philosophy, which we are doing very nicely. We speak nice philosophy. But we act differently. Which is the difference between the pure soul and the conditioned soul? Conditioned souls, we are different from what we say, we are different from what we do. The pure souls, they are the same with what they say, they're the same with what they do. So they are different. So if we want to transcend, we want to make advancement, we should start practicing our philosophy. It is only then we will realize what the books our charities are teaching. It is only then when we start the practice that we realize what they are teaching. Otherwise, everything will remain in the book. And it will also remain conditioned souls who will continue to struggle with our senses. And when we're changing the body, we'll be lamenting. We'll be angry. We'll be frustrated. Angry with who? Those who are very experienced, they said, those who are experienced. An inexperienced professional who blame his tools. Do you understand? This saw is not very sharp. That is why I cannot cut this wood very nicely. He's unqualified carpenter. The problem is not the tool he's using. The problem is that he's not experienced. And Srila Kavikanapura Goswami said, for a devotee who is very experienced, when there is a chance to perform, there is no difficulty. You will not quarrel with the tools. You will not blame anybody. It's a wonderful opportunity to demonstrate what he knows. But when will that happen? When we become experienced. And when are we going to be experienced? When we practice what we are getting from our scriptures. Does it make sense? Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, you said that every intelligent person can pursue Krishna in many ways. One of them you mentioned as consistency. You gave example of he showed to Akrur also. What he showed to Akrur, he showed same thing to Vrajavasis. So I understood this one example. Could we have some more examples?
Yes, the scriptures is consistent. Krishna told Arjuna, I'm not teaching you something new. I'm just teaching something I've given to Sun God, to Manu, to Ishaku. The same thing I have said that I'm telling you. There's nothing new. You need more? You can. You see, all the acharyas, they appeared in different places, but they speak the same thing. All the acharyas, the same, different countries, different planets, different times. But the message is the same. Not different. Even those who are not Vaishnavas, whenever they speak about Krishna, when they speak about Vishnu, they are referring to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not somebody else. All right? Thank you. Last question? Sure. No comment? All right, thank you. Okay, last question from Prabhu here. Great.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Maharajji. So, Maharajji, we hear that we have to control our mind and senses and put it at the lotus feet of the Lord. And focus at the lotus feet of the Lord. So, what is the best means to get it done?
To control the senses, we should start from the mind. We should not waste our time to control other senses. If you control other senses without the mind, we have not started. Because the mind is the master of all the senses. So we should start controlling all our senses from the mind. We should begin from the mind. If the mind is controlled, all other senses will be controlled. So we should start. How do we start controlling the mind? First of all, we should hear. But it is very difficult for many people, many devotees to hear. That's devotees, I'm talking about devotees. Difficult for many devotees to hear. It is not that everybody who sits in a class hears. Maybe one or two people will hear something. Not all the thousands. Difficult to hear. Because even to hear, there are qualifications. We need some certain qualifications to hear. If you don't have those qualifications, we don't hear. So hearing is very, very, very important. Very, very important thing, but very difficult also because you don't know the formula of hearing. I have seen many Hare Krishna devotees coming for Srimad Bhagavatam class with their prasadam plates in their bag. So do you think that devotee will hear the class? The whole time he's sitting there, he's thinking about Saridya, Bijaja, but when the bell is going to ring. I'm not saying of non-devotees. I'm saying about devotees, Hare Krishna devotees, what I've seen with my eyes, what I see. Many. And some devotees are coming to the class, they're already tired. They're really tired. They're coming to the class. What are we going to hear in that class? When you're really tired, you're going to hang on the wall. Or look for one pillar to hang on there. Be looking at the time all day. When is it going to finish? You think he's going to hear the class? Or some of us that come to the class will already knows what the speaker is going to speak. The problem with all these difficulties is that we will not have faith in the speaker. There's a miracle in hearing with faith. Even if the speaker is not qualified, but if you have a faith and are very eager to hear, Krishna will inspire that person to say something that will be beneficial for you. This is called Vyasa Asana. It is not Swami Asana. It is Vyasa Asana or Prabhu Asana. Somebody sitting here means the best thing we gave him is going to give him something for us. So we should be eager to hear that. So if you don't have eagerness to hear, if you don't have faith in the speaker, we don't have humility, we're already tired and knows already everything which the person is going to speak, you will not hear anything. The body will sit in the class, but we are not there in the class. So we're not here. And then how are we going to control the mind? We'll not hear something that will help us to control the mind. If we're going to control the mind, it's to hear. We should hear. When we hear something and you bring it to the mind. Whatever we hear, those who hear goes to the mind. Those who hear. Whatever the heart will come to the mind. Yes, we'll be hearing every time. Think of me, think of me, think of me. How are you going to think of Krishna? The Krishna quality have been described. So the mind should think about that. The Krishna's wonderful pastimes, his activities, what he performed. So many wonderful things. The Krishna's consistency, how he's very consistent in everything in his pastimes. When Krishna finishes here, where does he go? Finish? Or he's going to another place for what? To repeat the same thing. Something different. Is it not? Consistency? Everything, everywhere he goes, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to manifest the same thing. He will carry his entourage. Like here in the material world, if a musician, if he's traveling, is on tour to perform, he's going to go with his experienced players with him. And wherever he goes, he's going to sing the song he has composed that he's singing. Is it not? So consistency is important. Krishna is the supreme consistent person. He does the same thing everywhere he goes. And the reason is for us to hear. And after hearing this, we think of them. That is how we are going to get the mind control. Think of me, Krishna requested. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.